And I mean, let's take one data set which is going to be very imperfect. It's going to have numerical columns, it's going to have categorical columns, it will have some missing values as well. Let's run through that example end to end. We'll first clean up the data set by fixing missing values, and then we are going to do one hot encoding. We'll do all this using pipelines. So this would cover our first 4 or 5 sessions. Then we'll put perhaps both logistic regression and a linear regression and see how it performs. So that would cover almost everything that we have learned so far. And then once we are done, perhaps we'll have a quick round of question answer and then proceed to I'll explain how next sessions would work. Is that fine?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to launch my Jupyter notebook. Okay, I have taken an existing data set, but I've curated it a little by deleting some random values of it, and I've added some categorical columns to it. So let's go through that example. Is my screen visible enough at this zoom level?
Yeah, that's fine.
So we start by importing all the usual libraries. This file is housing modified. Okay, I've read this data set. It seems to have read the first column as well, which was actually indexed. So I'm going to remove it. Okay, this is our data set. As usual, to get a sense of what the shape and size of this, it's about 20,000 rows of observations spread over 10 features. So first, usually describe to see the numerical columns, because this would dot describe would not describe anything that is categorical in nature. If I do housing.info, it will give me the type of columns and the kind of elements in each columns. So here I see there are 9 columns with 1 being object and rest of all are float. Here that 9th one is missing. You would not see ocean proximity because that is categorical in nature. The rest of the ones, so this matches the shape of data. However, I see some values missing in total bedrooms and some missing in median income. And if I scroll down in the object also, I see some values missing. So even before we start with any algorithm, first step would be to fix all of these. Now we can do it one by one, but in this class, let's try and adopt a pipeline method, because that would vastly simplify how you do things and would make it much more faster. So the first step, because our pipelines would work differently, what do we have to do? We first have to impute missing values for all these. and do one hot encoding for ocean proximity to convert nearby and all these inland, all these values into 0, 1 vectors. So we would need a way to separate numerical columns and categorical columns. Visually, we can see it by just checking the D type. Let's see if we can exploit that to segregate these. So I'm just going to write a simple for loop for anything x in housing dot columns. Let's see what does it print. So what this has done is I've first taken housing dot columns. So if I see housing dot columns or any dataset dot columns would give all the columns. So I want to iterate through it. So what I've done is for any variable x in this, print x. So what this statement does is it goes one by one into each of the things in housing columns. What are the things? Each of these column names. And then I've just printed. But is that what I want? I want this and this. Let's see, because this x is this, if I want to get the column corresponding to that, usually this is how we subset. This is how I go to any column. I can change it to anything. So what I want is instead of x, I would want housing x. Now what this has done is first time it has printed everything that was in latitude, that was the first longitude, that was the first column. Then it has printed latitude, then it has, so it has printed all the columns one by one. Is that what I want? No, I want D type of these columns. I want this for each of these. Okay, so if I put dot D type, and how did do I have to remember this? No, I can just Google how to get D type of each column in pandas data frame. I would just Google it and then it would most probably the first result would give me how to go about it. So here it says data frame dot D types would give you this. So I've used the same thing. Here I've just put dot D type and I've got, but here it has just given me D types. I want to associate each of the D type with column name. So I'm going to print X as well as the D type associated with it. Okay. Now I have the column name and the corresponding D type. Now there is a way I can easily put a condition and then segregate my columns from this. How do I do that? I'll first put something like, I'll first initialize an empty list. Let's call it numerical columns. And what I want to do is instead of printing this, I want if the column has a D type of all the numerical values are coming like this. So I'm just checking if this is equal to float, then I just want that column to come here. Let's see what it does. If I print X, oh sorry, I want to print numerical columns. See, it has taken all the numerical columns but left out the last one because that wouldn't have met this criteria. Is this part clear to everyone how I've done this? Or anyone has any questions?
No question.
Okay, so I'm going to use the same logic to segregate the non-numerical columns or the categorical columns. Let's call it categorical columns. I'm first going to initialize an empty list. I'm going to iterate over all columns, but what I want is for each column, I'm checking if D type is equal to object now. If it is an object, then append it to this list. So it has segregated. Now we have two broad categories. One category, one list, two broad lists. One list would capture all our numerical columns. The other list would capture all our categorical columns. Let's see if it works fine. Housing. And I'm going to print all the numerical columns. You see, it has worked well. It has printed all the numerical columns. It has left out the last ocean proximity. Let's see if that is working well. Housing, categorical columns. It has captured this fairly well. Okay. Now what do we want to do? Actually, one step I missed is the first thing, as I said, that you do with any data frame before using it for machine learning, even before cleaning happens, is to cut it into two parts, test and train. And whatever you do should always be in the training data set. The test part should be just kept aside later for your evaluation of how good your algorithm is. Let's do that and then do these methods. So we have our housing. This is what we want to break. How do we break? I'm going to import a library from sklearn. What I do if I don't remember is I just Google sklearn test train split. So this says it is in model selection. Train test split. Now how do I use it is I would just read the documentation. Usually it gives an example, so instead of typing everything, I save my time. I just copy paste an example and then see how I can modify it to my own use. Okay, so we have xtrain, xtest, and we need to give it x and y. I'm going to change my ratio to 0.2. That means 80% of my data would be in test, and 20% of it is 80% would be training data set, and 2% would be left out for test. I have to specify random state for repeatability so that it's not totally random. I can repeat it every time. If you also use this random state same as I have used, then your results and my results would match. If I remove this off, every time I would run, the test train split would change because it's very random in nature. Here also it's random, but there is a method to that randomness. That's why we specify random state. But what are these x and y? X and y would be all the features, and y would be the thing that we are trying to predict. So I have to cut my data set into x and y first.
Hello, Bharat. Sorry
Yeah.
to interrupt.
Sure.
Yeah, what is the difference between using the random state value 42 or 1? Because in the for practice example which you gave, in that you have mentioned random state is equal to 1, but in this housing California dataset you have mentioned it as 42. How does it differ with
So
value?
this number is just any number. You can put it as 1000, 10,000, 1 to 45, whatever. But why
Okay.
do we use it is, if two people put the same number, their split would be exactly the same. So let's say if I put 2 and someone else wants to repeat the same example with the same split, if they also put random state 2, then
Okay.
Python would split it exactly the same way. If we both use 20, our results would match. That's all. There is nothing beyond that. So you can use any number that you want. So it can as well be 100,
Okay, thank you.
because it randomly, first the way it splits is it would shuffle all of these and pick 80% of it. Now, because it shuffles everything randomly, when you do the split, your test data would be different from my test data, because I would have, let's say when I split it, perhaps this would be in test and this would be in train. But when you split the data, for you, this might be in test and this might be in train, just because it randomly shuffles. But for the shuffle to be same, both of us have to use the same random state, regardless what the number is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so the number, actually what number you use doesn't matter, as long as two people who want to share an experiment and wants to have same results, they have to use same random state. That's all.
Bharat, I have one question.
Sure.
So you're doing this split with test and train data set, right? So there is one column which is categorical. So like, let's say you would encode this categorical column after you do the split. Would that not be a problem when you're trying to test the model?
I'll tell you why we split first and then do. Okay, so let's say let's assume this is the entirety of our data frame. This is the entirety of our data. It has only these many rows, and we split it half. So this top part below, above these dots, is our training and below is our test. Now, one of the things we do while imputing missing values is we usually take a mean and impute it. So let's say if we take a mean and impute missing values in this column, housing mean, how would it first calculate mean? It will take the mean of this entire row, if this entire column, and then put the mean value here. Now, what is the problem with that? The main problem is, because your algorithm has computed some value based on the values from test data set, you have actually corrupted the data. Because in real life, the actual usage of any algorithm is to predict on unseen data, and that data you would have never seen. So, and what we are trying to do by this split is to mimic the unseen data. Now, if this was truly unseen, I should have no method to use these values to calculate the mean as well. So that is why we first split. When I then calculate mean, it would take only these values, and then calculate mean. And what happens is, when I'm trying to predict, it would take this data and it will impute the value using the mean we have computed here. Because when you deploy your algorithm anywhere, your new unseen data would just be one row, and then you will be asked to predict the price of this, and then you would have no way of calculating a mean again using all the data. So what you do is, in your test, whatever mean is calculated is used to impute any new data set that is brought in. In the same way, when we do one hot encoding here, the same one hot encoding would go here as well. And that's the reason why we split first and do any of the things later. Did that answer your question?
So we do the one hot encoding even on the train data separately.
Yes. So the way we do it is, we put all of this
Test data
in one long pipeline, and then we feed this data set into pipeline. And that pipeline would first do this missing value imputation. Second, it will do the one hot encoding. Third, it will pass it to a model. And then we pass the entire training data set as well. So the same steps happen, but instead of recalculating the mean, it will just use the mean from here and use it to impute values. It would just use the values calculated here on one hot encoding, and it will use those here. And that is actually a true measure of how good your algorithm is, because this truly should be unseen. If you have already seen this and you have already used this data to impute something, that means you have polluted your test to a certain extent, and your model might show better accuracy than how it would actually perform in real life. That's why we never touch the training data set, the test data set, until we are we have done all our pre-processing on the training data set.
Got it. Thanks.
Okay. So we were at a stage where we were defining these X and Y. So my X is everything else apart from what I'm trying to predict. That means all features. Let's say we are trying to predict the mean house value. So all I would do is my X would be, I'll drop that column. I have to drop the entire column. That's why axis 1, and my Y is just going to be that column. Now here is one thing you need to observe. I'll show you this subtle difference. We have calculated X and Y. Now you see what Y is. Y has converted itself into a series of data, which are these data points. But if you see the shape of Y, it again is missing a dimension. That's because when you use this particular syntax, housing, bracket, and a column name, it converts it into a series. To retain the data frame, you just have to put two brackets. Now you see it comes with a column name, and it's not a series anymore. It's a data frame. Now 99% of the algorithms you're going to use would do this by itself. Like they don't care what it is. They would understand what you're trying to do. But this is just a subtle note. There are those old algorithms which still cannot cope up with this difference. So that's why I've just shown you this. Earlier we got around this by reshaping, using dot reshape -1, 1 comma -1. And this is an easier way of doing that. So now we have our X, which is all the predictors or all the features, and we have Y, the predicted or the output. Now we are going to pass this X and Y to our test train split and let it split the data set into two parts. X train, 16,000, 4,000, 20,000 sounds about right. It has split that into two parts with 80% and 20% split. Y train has 16,000. It matches this. So, and Y test has 4 128 rows, 4 128 rows. Our split is fine. So now we have X train, Y train, X test, Y test. So our data set is broken into test and train split. Now let's create our pipeline. Now what were the brief steps in pipeline? Or what are our objectives? One, we need to impute missing values. Two, we need to one hot encode. But
Categorical as well, right?
yeah, so this one hot encoding is for one hot encoding the categorical variable.
Okay.
So remember what one hot encoding does?
Yeah, that will replace category to 0 and 1.
Yes, it will convert all the categories into series of zeros and ones. So here is what one hot encoding would do. So this is just an example. If this is the column red, red, yellow, green, yellow, it would convert it into a data frame like this. Because there are three categories, it has converted it into three columns and put one corresponding to wherever this variable is active. So because this is green, these two would be 0 and green would become 1. So this is how one hot encoding would work. However, to do these, we need to do this step only on this column, the categorical column, and this step on the numeric columns. But there is again one more problem. You remember, let's just take X-train. In our one hot encoding, in our categorical column, we had missing values as well. You see, there are some missing values. Another easier way to find missing values is so we have missing values here, here, and here. So now our strategy should change. First step is for numerical columns, we need to just impute, and then for categorical columns, we first need to impute,
Ordinal encoder.
and then actually ordinal encoder is a little different. This is what ordinal encoder is. Instead of splitting into multiple columns, if I code every red as 1 and yellow as 2 and green as 3, that is called ordinal encoding. The problem with ordinal encoding is there is inherent importance attached, because 3 is greater than 1, 1 is greater than 2, and everything is greater than 0. So you cannot use ordinal encoding in things where there is no implicit importance of any variable over other. But let's say you have your categorical column, something like this: every day, never, rarely, most of the days. Now this has some order, right?
Yes.
Rarely is greater than never, most of the days is greater than every day, and every day is greater than rarely. So here in these kind of cases is where you would use ordinal encoder. But one of the safest things is to do one hot encoding regardless of the contents. So if you ordinally encode it or one hot encode it, your algorithm performance would not change much. So as a fail-safe method, I usually advise directly to use one hot encoding and never do label encoding. It can be done, it's meant for that, but I haven't seen much performance improvement in any algorithm using this over this. Perhaps 0.1 or 2 it would increase, but that's too minimal for the pain you would take to first identify. These are just 3 types of it. If these are tens and dozens of it, you would actually have to sit and map each of those and then put numbers to it. And this allows me to actually do it in one line. That's why I prefer one hot encoding over label encoding. But because you asked, that was the primary difference between label encoding and one hot encoding.
Bharat, but you mentioned in a case that supposing that the categories have weights, like every day is
like
more
this?
than, yeah, like this.
Hmm.
Would that lead to a better prediction? Like, let's say the weight of the category is leading to some sort of outcome.
Yes, if this was very important, then you should do this. But instead of, let's say, doing this, you do one hot encoding. Your algorithm is designed, you remember, it draws a best fit line. If red was actually very important and should have been weighted high, it will, the beta against this column would just go up. That's what algorithm will do.
Okay.
So that way it really doesn't matter. This also, because weight it already attached, you have taken some burden off algorithm and you have coded it yourself here. But in here, what you have allowed algorithm to do is, instead of you making an assumption on this weight, so the nuance or the subtlety of it is, though we have said never is better than rarely and most of the days is better than every day, and we have put 0, 1, 2, 3. You see, because of this, the distance between never and rarely is equal to distance between most of the days and every day. But is that a fair assumption to make? I don't know. You can put 0, 1, 4 and 5. That would also work, but that would mean you're taking a call on the distance or how much more weighted is rarely than never being same as the weight of most of the days being greater than every day. So to not make that assumption and let algorithm figure it out, if you do one hot encoding, the corresponding beta or the coefficient for this column is what algorithm would arrive at, and that would be, I would say, a better way of doing things.
Okay, got it.
Got it? So that's a very nuanced difference. The problem that it doesn't usually cause much difference if you don't do it as well. So if you just use label encoding, then one hot encoding, it's not like your algorithm performance would degrade quite, or in fact, let's take it today. Let's use both and then see what happens. But that's the subtle difference on why I prefer one hot encoding, because I would want an algorithm to choose the weights instead of me assigning weights. That's the subtle difference.
Okay, got it.
Now, one thing I would say is, I think I have read more than 100 or 200 books on machine learning. I am yet to come across a book which would actually explain why one hot encoding allows an algorithm to choose betas. These are some of the things that people, I don't know why authors ignore it, but if I Google around or do anything, I could never find these subtle differences or differences between this and this type of encoding, difference between one algorithm over other algorithm. These things are usually not given importance, but these things are very good to know. There is just one book where I found the author just putting this on footnote, and that's where I picked up, and exploring more I could figure this part out. But these are the things which I find interesting and I thought good to know. That's why I went into details of what is the actual difference between these. Okay, so but Saurabh, did that answer your question?
Oh yes, most definitely.
Okay. So what we want to do is, for numerical columns, we want to impute. For categorical columns, first we want to impute, and then we want to one hot encode. Okay. So we have, our pipeline is shaping up. We know our steps. First take numerical columns, impute. Second take a categorical column, impute, then do one hot encoding. And we have been able to segregate the numerical columns as well as categorical columns. Now, to make our program a little more robust, or also, let's say impute, what is the strategy we want to use? We see our missing values come from total bedrooms as well as median income. Now, my hunch is, let's say total bedrooms is usually a round number. We usually see 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. Unless any one of you stay in Bangalore, you would never see 3.5 bedrooms in Bangalore. Mostly, I don't know, it's a real estate gimmick, but you see 2.5 bedrooms, 1.5 bedroom. But generally, for people who are not as mad as Bangaloreans, you would see a total number in bedrooms. You would see 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 5 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, like that. So I want to do it in a little specialized way. I don't want to impute everything as mean. I want to impute these as median, and the income, which is a little continuous number in nature, I want to use mean only for that. So I'm going to add a little more complexity. Amongst our numerical columns, I want to, for this total bedroom, I want to impute using median, and for median income, I want to impute the missing values using mean. Now, if we are able to do that using the same logic, you can use any strategy on multiple columns or different strategies on different columns, but still be able to achieve. That's why instead of just sticking to one, I wanted to take an example where I'm using multiple strategies on numerical columns, but different columns. And a strategy which is sequential in nature. First impute, then one hot encode. Okay, so if we are able to achieve this today, then you should be able to build any pipeline using multiple strategies, both which can run in parallel, that means like this, or in sequence, that means first do something and then do something. Okay, let's start. If I want to first start building a pipeline, the first thing I'm going to need is import a pipeline. So that's the library which allows us to build pipelines. I've imported a pipeline. Now I want these pipelines to act. I want within this pipeline different things happening in different columns. So I have to import another library called column transformers, which allow different transformations for different types of columns. Import. Now, if you are worried that how do you remember within sklearn what to use, there's always Google. Like I can't remember this particular part, column transformer. I'll just type sklearn column transformer. It will lead me to the first search, leads me to a documentation site, and I just read, okay, it's this column transformer comes from compose library, and then I can directly import it from there. Now, so no need to worry if you don't remember. You can always Google and get the right answer. Okay, so now these allow us to construct our pipeline. What are we actually constructing? We are imputing this. So imputing is definitely something I need. Simple imputer. And for categorical, I impute, I can use the same library, but I want to one hot encode as well. One hot encoder. I think I have all my libraries allowing me to build a pipeline. Now, how do we want to take it? Let's first tackle the smaller one, categorical, and then numerical one is actually easier. So let's tackle the tougher one, categorical, and then see how we build our pipeline. So we have a pipeline. Let's name it something, categorical pipeline. I'm building a pipeline. So if I see the documentation, pipeline would just need a series of steps and rest all are optional. So what are these steps? Sequentially apply a list of transformations and a final estimator. Okay. So it is a list. Every step is a list, and it's a list of tuples. So it definitely is a list, and within that list, everything is a tuple. Okay, so at least I've got my syntax right. I've put a list of steps, and each step is a tuple. Now let's define our first step. What do I want to do with this categorical? First step is to impute. The way these tuples are written is I can give you, you can put any name. So categorical impute. I want a simple imputer with a strategy as most frequent. So here also I want to take the most frequent occurring thing to be used as missing value. So I've put, because mean is, there is no notion of mean in something which is categorical in nature. And median also, though median and this means the same, but median is a mathematical notation and hence it works only on numbers. For categoricals, think of median as same as most frequent. Okay, I have put, I want to use simple imputer. I am calling it categorical impute. And then I need to put a a column to it. What is that I want to fit it in? Or in fact, I'll put it later, because all of these have to go into one category. When I'm putting this into broader pipeline, I'll put it there. Next thing is one hot encoding. One hot encoder. That's about it. Now there are this is something fail-safe. Even if you don't use this, this should work. What it does is, in one hot encoding, if you put handle unknown, that means if it sees something unknown, it won't just blow up. You can put error, that means you want it to show an error. I've put ignore because I don't want it to blow up on me. So it's just going to ignore those lines. That's all this means. If you don't put anything, by default it will take error as the one, and it will show you exactly which line does this one hot encoder sees, which led to an error. Okay, we have our categorical pipeline defined. Let's build our broader pre-processing. Let's call it pre-processing pipeline. Same way, pipeline is going to be list of tuples. And actually, I'm not building a pipeline. I'm building column transformer, because here I want to pass this to categorical columns and just simple impute onto two of the columns. Okay. So step 1, impute a simple imputer strategy is equal to mean. The first one was median, right? Median. And now I'm going to give the column on which I wanted it to do this median strategy. This was on total bedrooms. Here. So total bedrooms, I want median. Again, I want a simple imputer, but this time with a strategy of mean. And I want to run this on, which column was it? Median income. Median income. And then I want to run categorical pipeline. This entire pipeline I want to run. I want to run this on. Okay, because I've already defined categorical columns, I can directly pass that categorical column. Where did it go? Because I've defined my categorical columns, I'm just going to put it here. So this is our entire pre-processing pipeline. That means it's a column transformer where the first step is to impute total bedroom column using median. Second step is to impute median income column using mean. Third step is use categorical pipeline on categorical columns. Categorical pipeline, again, I have defined here as a simple pipeline with first step is to impute using most frequent, and once imputed, one hot encode everything. So this is our broad pipeline. Now, by the same logic, if pipeline can do sequence of steps, can we put a model also here? Let's see. For that, let's first import the. Until here, anyone has any questions, or anyone wants me to repeat anything again? Okay, so from sklearn, I'm going to import a linear regression, and I'm just going to instantiate a linear regression model. And now I'm going to build a full pipeline, including the model. Pipeline. The first step, I want the pre-processing pipeline to run. And the next step, I just have to mention a name. Pre-processing pipeline. Now you notice I'm not mentioning any column because the only place you put column name is when you're using column transformer. If you see in this pipeline, I've just given a name and a step, a name and a step. Here also a name and a step. It's only when using column transformer is when you put name, step, and in addition the column name on which you want this step to run. So I'm running this entire thing here because I don't mention a step. It's just a pipeline. It will run on all the columns, but it will filter out everything because in this pre-processing pipeline I've mentioned the steps, mentioned the columns on which it should run. And then I'm going to run the model, linear model. This is my full pipeline. So I've created a pipeline where it will first run pre-processing pipeline, then run a model on it. The pre-processing pipeline is series of steps again. First, impute using median on total bedroom, impute using mean on this column, and do something on categorical columns. What does it do? I've defined it here. So this is typically how you would write a pipeline. First, you would start building from the most granular. What is that you want? You want something to be done, let's say as a sequence of steps. You define a pipeline, and then you have the sequence of steps applicable to particular columns. Then you add these steps to your column transformer. Then you use this entire thing and add a model to it and call it your full pipeline. And then now all I need to do is the way we ran our models was using model.fit, but instead of model.fit, I'm just going to use my entire pipeline dot fit xtrain ytrain. It has now what it has done is in one step, it has done all of these. You see, it has given as a pre-processor, it has ran this. So it has run this step on total bedrooms. It has ran this step on median income. In categorical, again, it has done this step first and this step first on this column, and finally it has fitted it to the model in one step, all because we had defined a nice pipeline. Now why does it benefit against, so comparison against if we were to do all these steps one by one manually and then put a model to it, imagine each time I change the model I need to run through all those steps again. Now all I can do is from sklearn logistic regression. Now I can define a model 2 as logistic regression. I want to run the same thing. Instead of just doing this, I can change the model pipeline from this to model 2 and logistic regression and run the same thing, and it would run the same way again. So this is the benefit you get. Okay, so we have run the model. Now let's predict the values of y. I'm going to call it ypred full pipeline dot predict would take x. So sorry, it has to be x test. Now we have these as our actual values, and we have these as our predicted values. Now we can actually do the scoring. All the scoring methods are stored in sklearn metrics. I want to import R squared method. It takes y true and y predicted. Y true in my case is y test, and this is the predicted. You see, something which used to take a long time before and a series of steps, just because we built small little pipelines, and these are not even difficult pipelines. We can build small pipelines, fit a model, and arrive at a test score. So if I were to break all of this down, first you import your libraries, read the data set, identify using these techniques, describe info on what type of columns are there and what is that you need to pre-process. You need to do some missing value computation, or you need to do one hot encoding, identify, build a pipeline. So first segregate the columns on which you need to do this. Once segregated, build do the test range split, and then build a pipeline. Once you build a pipeline, it's just you fit the pipeline, get a score, run the model using dot predict, and then do a scoring using this R2 score. This is for linear. If I use logistic, I would have used an accuracy score or precision or recall or all three. So this is a simple way in which most of your projects would run. Instead of having to worry about a lot of steps to pre-process, you can, once this is built, you see this is not data dependent. You can copy paste this onto any new data set. All you would need to change is perhaps the column names would change and the way you want to run these steps would change, but your method is going to stay the same. So these become your reusable building blocks for anything. So I think we have covered a model, a score, how to pre-process data on the mod which we would use in model, pre-process it in a different way for different type of columns, and different pre-process strategies also. So we have seen median, mean for missing values, and sequentially using this, and then we have seen how to fit one hot encoding all in one pipeline. So this should make quite a lot of algorithms very simple, where instead of spending time in pre-processing, you're just fitting the models. And later, as you would advance your knowledge about various types of models, you would learn tens of these models. So instead of spending time on pre-processing for each model, you would use the same step, but at the end of your model, at the end of your pipeline, your model would keep changing, and you would run this 10 times, one for each model, collect these scores, and figure out which is the best algorithm for your data set. And that's going to be the way forward in which we would implement every subsequent algorithm we learn. We will do these same steps, compare it to the previous algorithms we have learned, and see how better the new algorithm that you learn would be.